Recording.
So hi everyone. We're going to start the demo. Basically, we are going to go over the cycle goal for each team, and then we'll show what was done. So we'll start with the CMS because they asked nicely. So Yuli, can you share what was the mission of the cycle, and then share what you guys did and all the interactions you had, and each team will have maximum 15 minutes.
Okay, so from our team, Shimon is presenting. So, Shimon?
Yeah, we need to allow this thing to start until I get the Zoom ready.
So maybe I'll share the tasks that we had. And
yeah, maybe
over here.
Share the tasks.
Technical hurdles. Our main task was to enable a compound textile fields configuration in the CMS. And Shimon is going to show it to us as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You want me to pass someone else? Or,
yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, so who's next? Who wants to be next? Frameworks?
Yeah.
We're ready to go, yep. I suggest the demos, let the demo run. Oh, no, Shimon's already getting in there with his screenshots.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so the goal was to able to, let's start from the beginning actually. We wanted to make easier for the plugin writers to create a configuration, since we all know too well those plugins with the list of dozen fields. And the suggestion was to create a special field called text style field, which holds multiple configurations together. But I'll go the other way around actually. And I start with this one. This is a stupid simple cell builder plugin. And I've started actually going from the, I would just want to have some very simple cell style. And I, as the programmer, want to control how the data structure looks like. And then from the data structure, create the configuration, and not the other way around. So just for example, can you see the screen? I created a thing called text entity, which is something which I want to be able to reuse. So for example, I have a text entity here that is composed of font family, font size, color, line, etc. fonts, things that are generally recurring multiple times inside the cell or inside the UI component. And then I just created some entity, and I have an image, yeah, and two text lines. One is a title style, and the other is a subtitle style, and each of those is just some data entity I created. Now, the moment you start messing with those multiple configuration, it immediately becomes something very big, and you can nest it in groups, etc. So the idea was to create instead a single new field called textile field, and inside the field you can configure multiple components at once. So we'll show the manifest soon, but for example, in this section, I've used exactly the same the same structure I did here: family, size, color, line height, and it appears just for this. In this example, you can select the font family, select the font size, the color, etc., and you get the data exactly as you wanted to. As you can see, oh, there's a title text style, subtitle text style. This is just the data structures I created as a programmer, and the configuration that goes with it has the same structure. You can see I've duplicated the same dozens of fields, and yet at the UI builder it looks clean. This is reusable. The title and the subtitles are both the same, exactly the same fields actually, and you can put here as many configurations as you like, but it is especially geared towards text, which is many times a combination of family, size, color, line height, and weight, and it repeats itself. So it is actually, you can use it right now, but how does the configuration look like? Looks like, well, for that we have prepared something for you that will be soon available in the developers section, explanation about the text style field. And we can have here, for the ease of development, if you only want to have this text file field with only a single section and only a single property, you can look, that's how the model looks like. You can immediately download the snippet or just copy it in a single tab. Okay, I can use that and build upon this. Ah, that's easy. That's only one field. Let's say if we want 3 fields and 2 sections, everything under the exact same field. Okay, let's open the snippet. How does it look like? Oh, this is complex, but I can see how does it look like. So hopefully, by the end of the day, I will be able to add more snippets geared toward how should we use it, because it's a bit strong. Yeah. So hopefully, I will be able to add more snippets and have also the example of how the data looks like. And actually, this plugin is already using the same structure. And whatever we can do to make this a more enjoyable experience, that's what we're here for, singers. That's it.
Quick question.
Yes.
How this grouping inside of styles is different from grouping like we used to have in the styles?
It is a bit like grouping, but it can be anywhere else. It can be also under assets, under any other of the sections.
But do you mark it differently?
The field is called, the type is called text type, right? But actually it is stronger than that. And
okay.
This week, Pavel asked if we can do a group inside group. I didn't understand his question right away, but it's not allowed in the configuration panel, but it's allowed in the modal. You can actually, you group in your fields under one key and then group another under other key. So this is group inside group. This is something that you're not able to do now. So
yeah, that's great. So yeah, it's gonna make it like, you know, the UI for the user gonna make it much smaller.
Sorry?
The UI for the user will be much smaller, so they won't have like a massive list. So it will
exactly.
be nice.
Yeah. It's make it much more clear, and the user experience is much more clearable and clean in the eyes. So.
And we can use that for any configuration fields we want. Basically, we
yes,
can create the layouts we want in the modal.
Yeah, you can add as many sections as you want in the modal. You're not restricted to. I do advise to look at the snippets. I will send a message for everyone. So we don't start right away with crazy configuration. It's especially you, Pavel. But yeah, I encourage to look at what can be repeated and what can be put under the same sections, and what do we write again and again, and just put it in smaller boxes, and you can reuse those types you create.
I have a question. In the initial plan, there was an option to copy styles. This is something that you're planning to add.
Yeah, we start to do it and to implement it tomorrow. It will be available tomorrow.
So this is another very strong part of this field. Basically, if you have multiple styles out there, you can just copy and paste like a bundle of style and basically reuse it on your app. Mainly on your app, you have many self-styles, but they might have the same style. So you can just copy and paste it from one place to another easily. And if for the Zapper, it will be like it will save time.
If I might have a suggestion, I think Visual Studio itself got inside the functionality for doing that. And what you're doing is actually inserting snippet. This is how it goes. And then you putting the name, which is like you can repeat this, that it's typing actually in a couple of places. So yeah. I would advise to have a look at that because snippets in Visual Studio are crazy useful.
Yep. Hi, this is George on Roku. I was asked to lurk by Ran. I've been doing a whole bunch of UI builder stuff as we've upgraded the SDK to 3 over the last couple of weeks. And I just want to tell you guys that this feature you've added would have saved me probably 10 hours last week. Like, it's going to be really impactful for developers. It's really wonderful. The copying, add on a few extra hours of saved time, but obviously it's a developer-centric feature that has benefits for end users as well in terms of grouping stuff together. You get the nested ability of grouping as well, but in terms of the ability to better map what's actually in UI Builder to what the developer's doing, that's going to be a really huge benefit. So I wish you did this 2 weeks ago. My life would have been better, but thank you. It's a great feature.
Great. So we'll need to start testing it, and I recommend to start with one and see how it goes and get some feedback to the team, and if there are needed to do some changes and to really battle test it, your feedback is very required and helpful. So play with it. Next, or basically, can you also mention that all the things that you did regarding to the App Center links? It was the big issue during this cycle that you were very focused on. So what was the problem and what is the current solution? Just in a few sentences. Shimon.
So App Center, Shimon, you want to? No, basically App Center changed their policy regarding the download and installation links. They have a new policy that you need to refresh a token every 24 hours. So that caused a big download and QR code crisis for everybody. And basically Shimon fought it during the last week and managed to diminish the hassle considerably. I believe. I think this is.
We still have some issues with, like, we.
It's not perfect. It's 80%. We have so many cases there, but
there is a workaround for this, and not too convenient one. Basically, in a 20% that these links will not work from Zapp, users will have to go to take the download URL directly from App Center.
This is for old builds? This is for all builds
mainly.
or also new builds?
Only mobile
suffer
builds.
this?
Only mobile builds suffer, iOS and Android.
But new ones also are affected from like then you would, if you create
Also new ones were affected, yes.
They are still affected. It's like the coronavirus. Okay. So, okay, we'll need to reinvestigate it and see how we like make more percentage. But we would work on the cell styles. Let's continue because we don't have a lot of time. So, frameworks.
One small comment regarding another thing that was done. So the team made a big optimization on the plugin gallery in terms of performance. We had a big performance issue inside the plugin gallery, and now there were resolution of few bugs, and the time that it takes to load the screen and add and remove plugin was significantly improved during this cycle.
Okay. Regarding to the also there is another issue there in the cycle about separating between SDKs, quick brick and non-quick brick. This is something that was done, not done. What is the state of things? Just
it's for the platforms, an Android platforms.
Show SDK status, the compatibility in the app family screen.
Yes, this is a small change. Let me try and maybe show it if I can share my screen somehow.
Basically, you will only be able to pick an SDK that is corresponding to Quick Brick.
No, this is not this task. Just a second. I can't share my screen. Just a moment. אתה יכול לראות את זה באפ פמילי פייג'? יש שם את שתי העמודות החדשות. Just a second, let me try and... אתה יודע על מה אני מדבר?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the SDK status in the QB?
Yes, so we added two small bits of information into this packed view. So there's an indication here about the status of the SDK being used for each version, and also an indication whether this version is a quick brick version or not. Hopefully the SDK status will push users to identify that they need to upgrade their SDKs. The main goal here is that users will see that the versions they're using are using deprecated SDKs, and that's a call to action to start their. Here is a nice example for this, a live example. It's a call to action to start and update create version with newer SDKs.
Okay, cool. Let's now move to the frameworks.
Okay, whilst Francois is setting up the screen, I'll do a quick intro then. So the pure development tasks we had about 3 cycles ago, we did search for mobile native. And one of the tasks was to bring that across to QuickBrick using exactly the same specification. Tabs, so a tabs capability on QuickBrick Mobile, which can be quite a deep task. So we selected a certain set of functionalities. So we're going to see 3 different types of tabs that can be created within a QuickBrick Mobile app. And then for PowerCell 1, there was a whole bunch of improvements to do within that cell. And use that within the horizontal list component. So we're going to see also some nice ways that PowerCell for mobile can be used. 2 things got scoped out during the cycle, which was the list and grid component. They will come into the next cycle, and controlling those from a theming plugin instead of using SDK keys. So that will move into the next cycle. And along the way, the team also had to give support to the TV customers. And we had quite some heavy stuff for Cannes and Olympic Channel to support during the cycle as well. So, Francois.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you in the app today all these features that we've been working on. So basically, this is the QuickBreak Developers Demo app. I think everyone can go there, and you can look at version 3.09 on iOS and Android and download those and get those in their phones. I'm going to be showing on the emulator here. It's going to be more convenient, but this is exactly the same app that is running up here. So the app here, you see iOS and Android. You have a navbar on it, and you have the side menu on both of them, right? Which works like a drawer, same thing on both screens, right? And here we've been using several components that we created. They're not all public and everything, but yeah, we created like a very basic component for some needs to get like this card or something like that. The main component we use throughout this app is the Rails component that was created for QuickBreak, which is really cool. It works really well. It has tons of configurations and it snaps there. We've already shown this. This is really cool, really effective. So if we drill into the features that we have, I'm going to start with the search here. So to show you in Zapp, you just add a search plugin here, right? So you have QuickBreak search screen. So you just add this as a screen, right? And once this is done, you have this configuration here. So the way it works is the same way we've done on the native SDKs recently. You assign a feed, which will be the base point for your for the search feature. And when the user is typing a search query, the query is being injected to the feed we call Zapp pipes. That DSP is then responsible for handling the search and then return a feed. And that feed is then loaded in the target screen, which you can set here in the screen, right? You have different options on this plugin. You can also set a fallback version, which is basically like a landing page, right? If I click on the search plugin on both platforms, you see that there is a screen that is being presented. So if you look at many apps like Instagram, for instance, when you hit on the search button, you already see content. You don't have an empty page. So you can also do that here with by selecting a fallback screen. And that screen will simply disappear when you start searching something and the result comes in, right? I won't go in details, but you have all the configuration options here for iOS, for Android. You can set the colors of the navbar, the paddings, the dimensions, the assets you want. And the search box itself can be fully skinned on both platforms, right? So I stress on the fact that this needs to be to use a DSP that actually supports search, right? With the pattern that I've talked about right now. Basically, from a DSP perspective, you just have another argument, which is there's just a queue for query, and you get the string from the search, right? So if I type, yeah, I think my French keyboard here. So if I type something here, you can see it's being debounced for a good experience, right? And it's very effective. And
so it'll return results after you've put 3 characters in.
Yeah, it throttles the results so that we don't you know, have too many unnecessary requests. And basically, the return value of your feed is dictated by the structure that you have on your search target screen, like it is with connected screen, right? We have a very simple layout here where we just have a Rails component. You can also, when we will do the list in QuickBreak, you can use the list here, but you can also imagine to have the search result being returned in the form of a screen picker screen with like different tabs highlighting different types of results like you have on Instagram or that kind of stuff. The only limitation here is what the feed returns and the screen that you assign as a search target, right? And on search, it behaves the same way. So I want to thank Gavri for providing up the search DSP that basically queries on IMDb and let us search this stuff to return the value, right? and you see that it works well on both platforms. We've been very consistent with the experience you have on both platforms, so you can clear the search query here. We'll revert to the landing page when you do that, right? And then you can just close the screen there, right? And cancel here, right? This screen, you can add it. You can you can basically add a screen. I'm going to show you how we put it. On the navigation bar, I have an icon with the search screen here. Theoretically, you can put it on the side menu, but it's best when, in terms of UX, when it's displayed here. So you should prefer putting that on the nav bar for now, right? So that's it for the search. Moving on to the next feature that we've been working on, which are the tabs, right? Sorry, the power cell. So the power cell, you already know, we've already talked about it. We've done some huge improvements. This screen here is just an example of the kind of flexibility you can get from this master cell, right? So you can change the aspect ratio of the image. You can have rounded corners, which will make a circle image. You can do this kind of posters here, and some more classic cells that we have. You can also have a badging here, which will look into one of the property on the data to know whether the cell itself should be badged or not. This is all this is done with the same component. This is the rails, and this is the same cell style for all of these cells that you see in this screen, right? And you can see it on Android. It looks the same. So we have very nice and very consistent styling and very powerful options on both platforms, right? Yeah. So a lot of fixes, a lot of improvements there. I don't know what you think, David. I'm not going to get in depth into all the configurations that we want, because there are like really a lot of configuration. But Julian Schumann just showed, I think it would make this a much nicer experience to
yeah,
to
it was.
But,
we were aiming at that exactly this.
No, exactly.
Everyone. The main point is every one of those styles you see is coming from a single base PowerCell plugin.
Yeah, that's exactly. All this things that you see here, it's the same component. It's the Rails component, sometimes with just one item, and then it's just the same PowerCell with different configuration, right? So those are not different plugins to achieve those different results, right? So I think it's a good showcase of the flexibility that we can have for this PowerCell. And we're still bringing some tweaks, like for instance, this round thing currently, it implies that we are calculating the width and so that we want to put just a circle option there, which will calculate everything for you guys. And that's it. Anything I haven't mentioned on the PowerCell, David?
No, that's okay.
Okay, good. We can come back to any of those topics if you have questions, but I don't want to use up all the time, and we still have some things to show, so I'm moving on. Next feature that we've added in this cycle is the tabs. So we have 3 examples to show you, 3 kind of scenarios there. So the first one is the fixed tabs. So you can define like a fixed height here. So currently we've only introduced the tabs the same way we have the screen picker in our app today. So it means that it's the only component that you can have in your screen. And basically what we did is that we created the tabs as a screen plugin instead of being a component, because it felt more natural this way. So like with the search, you just add the screen and you look for the tabs and you just add this as a screen and you're good to go. And there again, you have lots of configuration available. Let's pick one there. So you have your data source, you have the target screen that you want to use, you have for the content inside, you have the display mode. So we're going to go through this. So this is fixed one. I'm going to show fractional and dynamic in a second. And then you have the styles, right? So you can use a text transform on the text level. You can skin the way the styles work on both iOS and Android with the full label thing. And the tab bar itself, you can skin very effectively, as well as each of the cells, depending on their state, Like you have this indicator color, which is the highlight that we have here, right? And since it's a screen plugin, you can also put a hook on it. This is also out of the box. So fixed size, as you would expect, just same size for all of the plugins. You see here that we're transforming to uppercase and we're ellipsing those titles here, right? And then the rest of the screen remains exactly the same and is still, usable and in the same way. We've used the screen that you've already seen, but you get the point. Next example is fractional tabs. So basically fractional will just divide the available space depending on the number of items. So here I have 3 items, right? And you can see how they are all distributed with the same amount of space there and the available space that we have. Oh, I didn't even show the fixed tabs on Android, sorry. Yeah, so you can see very similar, good experience on Android. Fractional tabs, same thing here, right? And you can see that you can skin basically the selected tab to have like either just an underline as a highlight or a full cell color like we had before. And the last one that we have is the dynamic tab. So dynamic will basically allow you to have tabs, that basically each tab will have a different size, and you can have an unlimited number of tabs that you can scroll there, right? And you can still navigate them the same way. So you can go there, and basically they will always reposition themselves to have an experience which is very consistent with what we see in some native tabs that we have, right?
You can control it. Yeah, you can control the snapping point as well to whether it be center or left or.
Yeah, exactly. So you see here we have different snapping there on the. Depending on where they are, they will snap into different positions when they are selected, right? They will get close to the center, except if they are on the side, and the scroll view will animate, and it will show the content underneath, right? So those are the 3 flavors that you have for tabs. I believe this addresses a lot of the scenarios that we have. One feature we haven't added for now is the possibility to swipe screens, right? This is something that we're keeping for a later stage. But this is something that ultimately we want to include, as well as the possibility, well, looking into it at a later point, to include those tabs in another place and not just at the top of the screen there, right? So those are the 3 main stories that we've been working on this cycle: the search screen, the tabs, and improvements and fixes to the PowerCell. On top of this, the team has been working really hard to address some production issues we've had and things like that. We've addressed almost 100 tickets in 2 weeks in Jira, which is quite impressive. And we've also added some tooling for developers in our Zapp CLI, which is used to manipulate the app and the development environment, right? Now you have an init command that you can use to set up your environment. It will check if you have everything needed, like Homebrew, ZappFest, Node version, all that kind of stuff. If it's not there, it's going to install everything you need. It will also offer you to clone the repos that you need for building the iOS and the Android app, or ask you to provide the path if you already have those locally, and ask you to define some other options like your preferred emulators for Android TV, Android mobile TV. So you just run this once, and then it creates a configuration file on your computer, which is used by the other commands. And now what you can do is when you are preparing a Quick Break app, you have a flag which will also build the native layer at the same time. So you don't have to go into another directory and run another command to build the native app. It's all done in one shot. And you can also directly run the app in the emulator on all the platforms with one single command directly from your Quick Break workspace, right? And it works for us on our environment, but also for any plugin developer who have this command line tool in their own Quick Break workspace with their own plugins. So this is really a good experience. And last but not least, on Quick Break, we have a situation. You see these tabs. It's the same code for both platforms, but we still have to publish 2 manifests, right? And sometimes we have some features that also work on TV, so we have to update 5 or manifests at the same time when we're creating a plugin. So we also made a script which is also available to plugin developers outside the company, which will automatically publish a plugin to Zapp. It will upload it to NPM. It will generate all the manifests for all the platforms, and it will push all the manifests to Zapp so that everything is kept in sync. And it becomes really easy to update those manifests, right? So that's it. That's what we did in this 2 weeks. I don't know if there's something that I failed to mention, David.
I wasn't really in the cycle, but if you just go onto the menu, there's one other thing that works in the app is connected screens.
Yes, so I can show all the things. Yeah, so we have
last one, really.
So we have this connected screen, right? So you can have this feed that leads to another screen, nothing really new. This was something that wasn't working well in some previous versions that we had. So we've addressed that. It's just one of the many fixes that we did along the way. I'm not sure what this stuff is.
That's just a dumping area.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, we've also, this app is actually using an Auth0 plugin that we created for authentication. And so you can link the screen there. And what is great is that when you create a hook plugin on QuickBreak for login into a system, you can use it as a hook, but also include it, like link it directly in the menu here. So here, for instance, I have this logout option that is automatically triggered here, right? And I don't remember which screen has the...
It's not actually there, so people can play with it without...
yeah, right, we removed it.
Without so crashing the authentication and having to reset it.
Yeah, exactly. We also added, this was also a known issue that we had before. We also added like automatic rotation when we are triggering a video. And we revert back to the main orientation when we're getting out of the video. And we have a very nice, very neat API that can be used in any plugins to control the orientation of the screen. So if you're creating a plugin for QuickBreak Mobile and for some reason you want it in a landscape, this is perfectly possible right now. And there's a very simple API to do this. All right. I guess
you also implemented a nice offline experience. Not sure how you can do it in the emulator.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was it was the one before, I guess, but I didn't get a chance to demo it. Let me see if I can.
On Android.
I think you can just swipe up.
Just disable 3G or airplane mode, maybe that's the best. Yeah.
Wait, did it work? No, it didn't. Doesn't look like it wants to do it.
And 3G, this one, the 2 arrows as well. We need to disable. Yeah.
Okay.
Mobile data.
Yeah. If you guys haven't figured it out, I'm an iPhone user. Okay, let me try this one.
No, it's not gonna work on iOS.
On iOS and the emulator, it doesn't work. Yeah, but you're right, Ryan. This is something that we added in the previous cycle. We didn't have a chance to demo it, so now we have proper listeners. Whether you open the app or you're running the app and you're losing the connectivity, you're going to have a nice screen telling you that you're offline and giving you notification and also notifying you when you come back online and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's also a very nice addition to the platform. Yeah.
Also, how at the end you created something for the Olympic channel regarding lazy loading, or it didn't happen at the end? Or?
We're still working on this performance optimization. This is a very complex thing. It's still in progress. So, but this doesn't affect the mobile version of the apps. This is just specifically for Android TV, because this is a platform on which we've seen some performance limitation on some devices. And yeah, we're looking into that to try to make the app more responsive, load faster, and have an overall better experience. But it's not finished yet.
Okay, cool. So I don't have anything to say. It's like a tremendous amount of work and good work. And
maturity. It looks absolutely mature.
Yeah,
I like it.
And it looks good. So this is like the advantage of using having John.
Well, yeah. You just remind me of something, because a few days ago, Shimon sent me a message saying, I built an app from scratch. It builds, it works, but it looks really bad, right? So this is something that we actually want to work on, is like to provide better defaults there. This app that you see, John spent quite some time styling it, skinning it, so it looks gorgeous, and that's great. We will try to keep a line of work into providing better defaults, so that the out-of-the-box app that you get when you just create it and run it, it looks much better. And also I want to say, the CMS team worked a lot to add some features to support, you know, some flexibility we needed around Quick Break. We added a new flag to flag plugins, that kind of stuff. I would recommend you guys, if you're creating Quick Break apps, to create a new app from scratch instead of migrating another one, because it would be a more solid experience right now to do it, instead of getting a native app and then creating a Quick Break app out of this one. Especially on the plugin, on the management of the default plugins and everything. Create an app from scratch, Quick Break, new layout, and this will give you the best experience currently.
Cool. So let's move to the platforms.
Right. So basically on the platforms, we had a few tasks. One of them is the Apple partners task on iOS, which was not completed. So I cannot present anything. There's nothing to present. Beside of this, there was some additional infrastructure works, such as the separation of the Android Quick Break SDK. And also there was the release of another stable SDK. Just a second. Besides, the team was working and completing the task of the last bit of removing the dependency from AIS, which was the reset UUID functionality that was tested. And right now, basically, it's going to be a slow rollout until the actual AIS servers can be shut down. I actually can't tell which applications are out there that are not going to be updated to the relevant SDKs. But this task was completed. Besides, I already said SDK, Android SDK 12 has been released, and the iOS SDK also been released. iOS SDK 20, that is the Quick Break supporting SDK.
So this is from today or yesterday? No, this is like very new. The 20 as like released. No, like very...
Yes, I think yesterday already. Anton,
I think it's very important to say that the release of 12 SDK is Android X, which was huge migration.
Yes,
and that also helps us.
Sorry,
we're meeting some people because I was hearing echo. Since we released 12 as Android X, we don't have to hopefully release 2 SDKs in parallel as we used to do before. That was putting some stress on us and slowing down the process. So hopefully people will start adopting Android X and will return to releasing only 1 SDK.
Anton, you want to share a little bit about the work that was done specific on iOS, and then Alex, maybe you can share the work that was done on Android?
Yeah, sure. So I will start.
So as Omar said, we released for QuickBrick iOS 20. Besides this, we release stable 41.0 for Legacy SDK. We resolve ongoing bugs that we have on Legacy, and we did support of framework team with their request. On iOS, we did factor to provide for QuickBrick structure for orientation change. So now they have full control of orientation from QuickBrick side. Was added error monitoring plugin support. Was added for iOS push plugin support. Was added analytics plugin support. Also, we did some refactor to provide support some legacy plugins. So, for example, I checked and play with Firebase Analytics, Firebase push notifications. So these two plugins now can be used without any additional change in QuickBrick. Also, we did support of URL scheme handler that will use for normal URL scheme support, plus it will use later on for universal search, EVS, and for iOS. That's kind of it, I guess, like from big tasks.
One important that maybe slipped is that basically what Anton did is, and Alex, is the ability to support all the analytics and push notification plugins that are already implemented on the QuickBrick SDK. So this is important. It will not require any developer to migrate in terms of analytics and push. Of course, there are outstanding issues. There will be outstanding plugins that were not using our latest SDK, but in generally saying it should work out of the box. Alex?
You just need to change the Firebase-based plugin to version 2 that
yeah, it's we have analytics-based plugin that use most of legacy plugins, and we have the same file that called push-based plugin. Generally, we implemented new protocols on both of these files. And at least an example of Firebase Analytics and push, I don't require to change this inside.
Alex, you want to share what you've done?
So yeah, I've been working mostly on QuickBrick only Android SDK. It's released on alpha stage. I believe some of you have already seen it. SDK 20, just like on iOS. It's essentially the same as 12, but there is no legacy stuff on the top of the project. It runs fast, starts fast, takes much less space. And this week I'll continue to work on cleaning up our internal Applicaster Android SDK that most of you guys usually don't see, I believe, in your everyday work. And we will remove even more legacy stuff from here. And it will take even less space, start even faster, and it will actually help with both old Zapp and QuickBrick SDKs. And yeah, that's it from important stuff.
Yeah, basically this SDK should be released during this week, I assume. It's now the release candidate, and it strips out basically. So the update Francois showed you today, it's built on the current Android SDK. So basically the current Android SDK, which means that it takes all the native pieces and utility modules and things that are not in use in QuickBrick at all. So the task that Alex did is to optimize this. So he's now working hard on the launch sequence, basically to give a smoother experience, and this SDK would be completely lean. What Anton didn't mention, and also what we're aiming now with Alex, is to open source all our project. So basically we will not have any need for someone to get credentials of our organization. You just download the repository and run it without the need for even having specifically development project or so on. Basically you can just run the project, which only contains the relevant elements that are required for the native plugins and the QuickBrick UI plugins. So it's kind of a summary of the tasks that were done in the platform. Also, we are now in the platforms team, we are releasing constantly SDKs. So we change a little bit the way we work with our cycles. So the idea that our cycles now are really short, and by the end of each day or every 2 days, if we're fixing issues, we are releasing them. On top of that, we have a release process on QuickBrick, which basically provides a release candidate every day. So it's very useful when you're building a QuickBrick-based app to use the latest, because every day you get a lot of improvements. And soon we're going to expose the changelog as part of the QuickBrick daily releases. So you will be able to see the progress. Francois mentioned that the team dealt with like 100 incoming issues. So it's a significant amount of issue that will either resolve or helped to resolve with configuration. And basically, there is a big volume of fixes and features that are being added every day. Starting move stronger to the approach of continuous delivery, basically. So, and really leverage what the platform is providing. So you will be able to see that every day you can build a new version based on QuickBrick with new releases, and also on the native SDKs. Every fixes that we're doing, we're trying to launch the day after or the same day a new SDK version that will include this amount of work. That's it.
Cool. Anyone has, so thank you for the platforms team. Anyone has questions?
I think Boaz is not here, so we cannot present.
Yeah, he's on vacation.
Yeah, but on the automation effort, basically, Reut can say, but in general, what we did is we set up the infrastructure that is required to run the Apple TV automation on QuickBrick. So now we have all our TV platforms basically covered by automation. Of course, not with a big test coverage, but we have the infrastructure there to be able to write automation. With the growth of the number of platforms, this is a fundamental thing to have, because we can really not manually test things in a proper way that will help us scale. So this is one thing, and basically all the releases of the SDKs are with their help. So it's another word to say thank you for this from the QA team. And in general, to everybody, there was a lot of work that was done. Like in this cycle was 2 weeks. So what you've seen was done in 2 weeks. So I want to thank everybody with huge work. In general, just to say, to put everybody in context, our goal is by the end of the quarter to launch our first QuickBrick mobile apps production. So all the work that is done is focused on that. Basically, every task that was done is focused on is related to this delivery and supporting the production apps that we have that are running on TV or about to be launched on TV. And this is helping us all to focus on the important task that we need to do, and less develop to, and putting in the drawer. So basically, we should see immediate impact. I will share this recording with everybody, because I think it's huge from all the teams of what is provided here. And I think that it will help giving confidence to people in building QuickBrick apps, because I feel that it's much more stable, it's much more strong, it's easy to develop, it has all the, it's a better iteration on top of our current native apps. And now we need to maintain and make it work. All the teams will work on optimizations. So now we release, we need to be some optimizations that need to be done. Francois mentioned it, the platform team are working on it. And the CMS team did a lot of work regarding that. So I really want to thank everybody. It was a great, it was a successful cycle in general, I want to say. And I hope we will keep doing it well as we did this cycle. Thank you very much.
Okay, the link to the apps to download is in the frameworks Slack channel. If anybody wants those, as long as the download link remains.
Cool. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy.
Good work, anyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.